Graham Gardner here in my office once again, and this is going to be part 4 in my series of videos on how to reduce the emissions from your Wi-Fi router. I wasn't planning on doing this one, but some changes have happened to my system that are worth talking about, and that is that BT, British Telecom, have decided to upgrade me to their new digital voice system. Now this is where they say that they are taking out the old copper landlines, so your old wired landline phone is no longer going to work, and you have to switch over to Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP for short, which means that they give you a new router and you have to unplug your landlines from the wall socket and plug them into the back of the router, and then all your calls go over the internet, which is fine as long as your router is powered up. Of course, if you lose power, then it's going to be a problem. So they advise you to have a mobile phone handy, fully charged, in case you have an emergency situation like that. If you're in a situation where you have poor mobile coverage, for some reason, they will let you keep your wired landline phones if you wish to. If you don't want to keep the landline phones, you can save a few pounds off your bill and just rely on your mobiles. Some people also require the wired landline because they have some sort of medical alarm system that requires that. So in those cases, they will leave the landline connected. Otherwise, they say they want to get rid of it. So I did the changeover on the phones. I just unplugged things from the wall socket. I have 3 phones. They all run off a 3-way splitter adapter. So I just ran a cable from the back of the router down to where that socket was, plugged them in. All 3 are working absolutely fine. And if anything, the call quality is actually better. So here's the back of the router. Now the left-hand socket with the black cable going in is just where your broadband connects to. The green socket next to that is the interesting one. That's the new socket that you would plug in your phone line. That's the white cable that you see dangling over on the right there. Then you've got a USB socket if you have any printers or whatever that you might want to put on the network. And then you've got your usual 4 yellow local area network or LAN sockets, of which the right hand one is actually a wide area network. I think that's for smart meters and other connected devices like that, but I'm not entirely sure. And then you've got your power button and the factory reset. And that's it for the back. Okay, here's the hub, and it's pumping out Wi-Fi here at the moment. Wi-Fi signal is enabled on the hub, and that's actually so loud it's gone off the scale. But look at the peak on the left, and the average on the right is still into the amber. That's reading, gosh, about 8,000 microwatts per square metre. Way too high. Now to switch off the Wi-Fi, if you remember from the last video, you have to go to Advanced Settings and Advanced Wireless on the router control panel. Switch off your wireless settings on both the 2.4 and the 5 GHz settings and then click Save. You will also have to go into your account page on bt.com and find the setting to opt out of BT Wi-Fi. This is the public Wi-Fi that they let anybody use, and your router uses a portion of its bandwidth to pump that out all the time. So you may not switch that off just on the router control panel, so make sure you've done both of these. You should then get a pop-up that says all wireless functionality on your hub has been completely disabled. This is actually a lie. That's because the hub is also putting out a DECT cordless phone signal. Why? Very good question. But apparently there is no way to turn that off, which is rather depressing. So here's what I had to do to sort that one out. Alright, so here is the Smart Hub 2. This is with the supposedly wireless emissions disabled on the homepage in the browser. And as you can see with the acoustic meter, still getting very high readings here. And that buzzing noise you hear, this is a DECT phone signal. And there's also a bit of residual Wi-Fi there. You hear that sort of pulsing da 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 in the background. And yet this is supposedly all wireless emissions switched off. Clearly it is not. So this is the new purchase. This is the Faraday cage I bought for the router, which is made of stainless steel mesh. And it just slips over the top quite easily. Just these are made to measure, you have to specify the router. And this allegedly blocks out most of the radiation. So well, this is with the Wi-Fi disabled. Readings still quite high on the peak, but that's much more acceptable But you can see, or you can hear rather, the DECT phone signal. Now this really annoys me because BT are asking you to plug your existing phones into the socket on the back of the router, which will work with your existing DECT phones, so why does this thing need to be pumping out its own DECT signal that you cannot disable? It is because BT want you to buy their hub phones, which will connect to this hub without having a separate base station, and it can also connect to the hub with Wi-Fi, so you can do wonderful things on their phones, like have Alexa installed on the phones. I'm really quite annoyed that you can't turn off this DECT phone signal at all. So we do what we can. Okay, here we are. This is the Faraday cage, and I've also got my EMF screening pouch, which you will remember from the previous videos, especially the first one. So that's that inside the Faraday cage. We're now getting readings that are much more acceptable. So there we go, only 0.47 on the peak and 0.32 in the, 4 to 6 on the microwatts per square meter, and 0.48, 0.5 on the peak volts per meter. So that's much more acceptable, and that's really sort of quench a lot of the DECT signal as well. So there we are. That was a bit of a saga getting that Smart Hub 2 router tamed into something that's reasonably safe. Faraday cage and the wireless screening pouch both together seem to cut it down to an acceptable level. Now I might try experimenting with this. I actually bought that Faraday cage online. If you want to do that, you can just Google your router name and plus Faraday cage in the search engine. You'll find out who makes them. I am going to try making my own one. You can buy your own stainless steel mesh online. So I'm going to try making one perhaps with finer mesh, or perhaps just a slightly larger one that encloses more of the router. I mean, that was still open at the bottom quite a bit. So maybe that's the problem. The microwaves are still getting out there. So it's still a work in progress, and we'll keep you updated as we get on with that. I'd love to know your own experiences with the Smart Hub 2 if you have any. Do leave a comment below, and in the meantime, if you want to see any more of these videos, like and subscribe, as they say. So thanks for watching. I hope you find it useful.